Today on Light of the Word with Pastor Ray.
God has right. He's creator. He owns the heavens and the earth. He has total possession and ownership always to the earth. But he said to Adam, be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it, have dominion. Adam, I'm giving you this earth. Well, we know what happened with the atom bomb, the fall of mankind. And what happens in this atom bomb is Adam gives his dominion of this earth. The devil takes over.
Open your heart to us, Lord, so we can know your word. We come before you, Jesus. Speak to our hearts as we discover your love for us. How wide, how deep, how far. Pour into us so we can learn to follow. One surrender at a time. You have made the way for us to know you, a path that's straight and right. By the light of the word.
God's authority is the foundation of the universe, unshakable and absolute. In today's message, Pastor Ray reveals how, as creator, God owns the earth, granting man dominion to rule it. He instructed Adam to be fruitful, multiply, and subdue the earth. Entrusting it to him, God's original intent was for you to steward his creation. Despite the fall, his authority remains supreme. You're called to live under his rightful rule today. Are you trusting God's sovereign ownership? Well, let's join Pastor Ray in the book of Revelation chapter 4 for today's edition of Light of the Word.
Revelation chapter 5, verse 1 through 7. Then we'll go verse by verse. And I saw on the right hand of him who sat on the throne a scroll written inside and on the back, sealed with 7 seals. Then I saw a strong angel proclaiming with a loud voice, who is worthy to open the scroll and to loose its seal? And no one in heaven or on earth or under the earth was able to open the scroll or to look at it. So I wept much because no one was found worthy to open and read it, the scroll, or to look at it. But one of the elders said to me, do not weep. Behold, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the root of David, has prevailed to open the scroll and to loose its 7 seals. And I looked, and behold, in the midst of the throne and in the 4 living creatures and in the midst of the elders stood a lamb as though it had been slain, having 7 horns and 7 eyes, which are the 7 spirits of God sent out into the earth. Then he came, took the scroll out of the right hand of him who sat on the throne. And we'll cover the back end, verses 8 through 14 next week. And what are we reading? Some of the things we're looking at, the title of the message is The Lion, the Lamb, and the Scroll. And we look at these things, the scroll, what is it? Why is it? What's the purpose behind it that we're reading? And these things, they seem so kind of, clouded in a sense until we start to piece them together. And there was an expectation that John knew things because he knew Old Testament. He knew some of the writings that were before him by Paul and the likes and Peter, as we've studied that. Well, we're going to see the weeping. Why is there weeping in heaven at this point? The Lion, why of Judah? And the Lamb, why is he slain? That's our outline as we look at these things today. And an interesting thing, more so than any other time in the United States, and maybe you're picking it up and seeing some of the trappings of it through the news, squatters. You're reading about that? Like, it's epidemic now. And the laws aren't protecting homeowners who put their houses up for sale, or their landowners, and they're putting their houses, these houses or apartments or whatever, that people to rent them and to make an income off of them. And people know the laws and they know what they can get away with. And squatters are literally going in, they're seeing house for rent, and they're going in and they're stepping in, they're breaking the doors, windows or whatever, and they're going in and they're literally squatting. And they're taking possession of something that's not theirs. And then it's going to take the law and the whole process to get them out. we go, this is so unjust. This is so wrong that a homeowner is out of their own house by people who don't have the authority or paying rent or any of these type of things. Well, it's interesting as we talk about that, as we see that and the picture that's put before us in our very country, in our very day, in our very news, it's the very picture that we're reading here. The scroll, what is it? It's the title deed to the earth. And we're going to go through why it's the title deed to the earth and why there's weeping, why there's a lion and why there's a lamb. And what we'll see with the beauty of it is the grace of the lamb through the authority of the lion. See, there's no authority if you don't have the right to the authority. For instance, I couldn't grant you grace if you went out and, robbed the bank. I couldn't come and go, well, I forgive you. My gracious heart forgives you. Well, the law of the land would go, you have no authority to release the debt, give that grace. You don't have the authority to do that because you're not in a legal position of authority in our country in that manner. Well, here we see this wrapped together. We got this squatter. His name's the devil. And he comes to just make our lives miserable. And he's just a squatter. He's a usurper. He's been defeated. And he's been defeated by a lion who has the authority because he's the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. And that lion will deal out that justice with the devil and the guilty. But because that lion has the full authority, he can grant you grace and me grace in the midst of our guilt and our breaking of the law. So, John's been called to come up there. In verse 2, he's in the Spirit. And here in verse 2 of chapter 4, and here in verse 1 of chapter 5, he's going to see he who's on the right hand of the throne of God. And I believe that's the invitation for us today. Lord, I again pray your goodness, it is chasing after us. Your people have come, and Lord, I know you love them. I thank you, Lion of the tribe of Judah, and your great authority, King of the universe. But for those that have gathered, we literally don't tremble at the lion because we know your love, because you became the lamb and your grace is poured out. But the lion does have the power, and that's who we come to. For these things that we see, as the devil comes and tries to squat and usurp in our lives personally, just like he is in this whole world, nation, country. Thank you for this great love. In the Spirit, Lord, may we see you. May you open this word to us. Show us the scroll. Show us the hope that is yet to come. In your name, amen. And I saw in the right hand of him who sat on the throne a scroll written inside and on the back, sealed with 7 seals. Again, my outline, the scroll, the weeping, the lion, and the lamb. Here's a picture of a scroll that's been found in multiple scrolls archaeologically. And basically papyrus, it's the way they made it out of the material and then the ink on the page that would be. A typical sheet was pretty interesting for us, about 8 by 11. And then they would write on it, and they'd have about 3-inch margins. They wouldn't write all the way up to the top. Most of them we saw, they'd be writing a couple-inch margins that they would have then. So a book like 1 John or so, 2 John, 3 John, Philemon type, it might be a page, page or two. When you would take the way they wrote, the size of the writing, and the scroll and the roll and whatnot. Interesting, it's been determined that this scroll of the book of Revelation is probably going to be about 15 feet long. Because you would take your 8.5 by 11, and then they would bind them together, seal them, sew them together to make the next page and the next page. And so when you put this whole thing together, then you rolled it on a wooden, piece of wood to make it roll as a scroll. It's been determined that this is probably going to be about 15 feet long. What's interesting, you see the scroll example that I have here, archaeological find. It's not written on the back, and because there's usually a smooth side of the making of the papyrus, and then a rough side. And so they would write on the smooth side. We're going to see that this scroll is double-sided. And I'll explain that as we get into this and just give some background of what this is. And again, what we're going to see here is the title deed to the earth, and we'll explain why. But it's interesting as I say this this thing's probably going to be about 15 foot long, 8.5 by 11, right? 8 and 11 sheets sewn together. Can you imagine what that looks like? And the point that I make about that is when we start unrolling chapter 6 through 19, it's going to seem like it's just never going to end. You're just going to keep unrolling and unrolling. Here's seal 1, here's seal 2, here's everything that happened. Here's bowls and these type of things. And it's just going to seem like it's going to keep going and going and going. And you can imagine while this is being read in the congregation, as it would be read, people go, "Oh wow, he's only unrolled half the scroll now." And then imagine you get to the end of the scroll and it's like, now flip it over, and you start rolling and unrolling and unrolling again. What's happening here in this is the title deed to the earth, and what God's going to do here is God, just give you a big picture, he has to purify the earth before he establishes the millennial kingdom. So that's what's going to be happening, and that's chapter 6 through 19. It's the purifying of the earth before the millennial kingdom come, which is 1,000 years here on earth. Then there's going to be a whole new heaven and whole new earth when we get into 19, 20, 21, 22. But that's what's happening here as we unroll this. And it's interesting to me is that there's an expectation that has been given to the people who would be reading and hearing this book of Revelation is an understanding of the Old Testament, an understanding of the New Testament, and these things that I'm going to share with you. But for us, we go, "Oh, what's this scroll?" Well, I'll tell you what, the scroll's common to them. To us, we go, "What is this scroll?" Well, to us, that's kind of like, we don't do scrolls. We don't know it. To them, it's like, oh, it's a scroll. And then we're going to see, it's going to be talking about redemption. It's going to be talking about buying back. And the first time that we really see this, and it's a picture, and it's a beautiful correlation that we see here, and there's some good unpacking here. In Jeremiah chapter 32, Jeremiah has been given the prophetic mission to warn the children of Israel, look, you're entering into a 7-year period of judgment. And the reason being is you did not give a Sabbath rest to the land. 490 years since you came into this land, you were supposed to give a Sabbath, 1 and 7. You never gave it. So that's 70 years. You're going to go into captivity in Babylon. And God would even say through Jeremiah, don't fight it. The judgment has come because of the consequence of your decision that you'd rather make money than take a Sabbath. You'd rather trust in yourself than trust in the Lord. All these things and the pictures and generation after generation, you have reproduced this and these type of things. Babylon's coming, and they're going to take you into Babylon for 70 years. And so that would be defeating, and that would be disheartening. But then God gives, Jeremiah 32, he gives this word to Jeremiah through his kinsman, near relative, that's what kinsman is, an uncle and a cousin. Listen, they're going to come to you and they're going to say to you, buy my land. Jeremiah 32, 6 through 7. And Jeremiah said, the word of the Lord came to me, saying, behold, Hanamel, the son of Shulem, your uncle, will come to you, saying, buy my field, which is in Anoth, for the right of redemption is yours to buy. You had to be in the kinsman. You had to be in the family lineage. And so here's what the Lord's doing. Jeremiah, we're going to give the greatest demonstration. Yes, I have to bring a consequence of disobedience onto the nation of Israel. And they're going to go into captivity, and they're going to think it's over. They're going to think God has forsaken them. I want you to give them the greatest picture that my heart is still for them, for I know the thoughts, Jeremiah 29:11. And he speaks it to you today. I know the thoughts that I think towards you, says the Lord, thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you a future and a hope. Look, even though you're going to go in and you're going to face these things, my heart is still for you. And I'm going to bring you back out of the land in 70 years. Daniel would be reading the book of Jeremiah and go, hey, we're coming up on the 70 years, man. I need to get ready. I need to tell everybody, hey, pack up. We're heading back. Well, one of the greatest signs that God will give, he says, Jeremiah, you buy this field because everything you've preached, you're going to make a declaration, we're coming back. We are coming back into this land, and so convincing that God wants you to know, I'm going to buy this property, that I will come, and that because we're coming back. And then verse 10 through 12, the whole chapter is the context of Jeremiah 32, and I signed the deed. So here we come to this title deed, and sealed it. Sound familiar, right? Took witnesses and weighed the money on the scale. So I took the purchase deed, both that which was sealed according to the law and custom, and that which was open. And I gave the purchase deed to Baruch, the son of Neri, the son of Messiah, in the presence of Hanamel, my uncle's son, and in the presence of the witnesses who signed the purchase deeds before all the Jews who sat in the court of the prison. So you see part that says it was open, part that's sealed, and what it is was the part that's opened of, he sold the property to me. Now the part that's sealed and that would be opened was when you would open it going, if someone came and wanted to redeem it before Jeremiah would take possession, it had to be a kinsman, someone in the family lineage, could have been the uncle's son, and he could come and say, I'm going to buy this back from you, Jeremiah. And it was the right of the Jewish law. And then they would open the sealed part and go, here's what you would have to do to buy it back. You have to buy it back for, this is what the debt was that needs to be repaid, or this is the stipulations to buy it back. And so that's why you had an open part, you had a sealed part. And what we see here is the selling of a piece of property. This is the picture that's being made for us of the selling of property and the buying of property. And that brings us to this seal. And here's how it rolls for us. God has right. He's creator. He owns the heavens and the earth. He has total possession and ownership always to the earth. But he said to Adam, be fruitful and multiply. Fill the earth and subdue it. Have dominion. Adam, I'm giving you this earth. Well, we know what happened with the atom bomb, the fall of mankind. And what happens in this atom bomb is Adam gives his dominion of this earth. The devil takes over. And we can say, no way, not so. Well, Matthew 13, we'll read it here shortly. Remember when Jesus is in his trial before the devil, the 40 days? He takes him up on the high pinnacle and says, this will be all yours if you'll bow down and worship me. And then the Lord will say, you shall worship the Lord your God and him only. Depart from me. If you notice, the devil's saying, Jesus, I'll give you all this earth. I'll give you all the kingdoms of this earth. Just bow down and worship me. What's the key that we see? Well, we know, worship the Lord your God and him only. But do you notice a little piece there is, Jesus doesn't say to the devil, no, you do not have the right to give and offer that. Jesus never disputes that. And here we read through the scriptures, 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 3 through 4. Verse 4 says, whose mind the God of this age has blinded. Small g. Our problem with this world is a small g. You hear acts of God, but they put it in the big G. God, creator, heaven and earth. The problem that we have with this world is the God of the small g. The devil has the ownership. But right now, he's just usurping because he was defeated on the cross. We'll explain that more. Jesus calls him the God of this age. John 12:31, he goes on, now this is the judgment of this world. Now shall the prince of this world be cast out. He's the God of this world. He's the prince of this world. The Lord never disputes that he had the right and ownership to offer and say, bow down, I'll give you this. And so what we see here is Adam had it. He relinquishes it. He gives it to the devil. The devil's now under the ownership. But just like in Jeremiah, someone needs to redeem it. Someone needs to buy it back. And of course, that was fully accomplished there upon the cross. 1 Peter 1:18, knowing that you were not redeemed with corruptible things. And it goes on, but with the precious blood of Christ. Romans 6:20, the wages of sin is death. We've seen all this play out. But Matthew 13, verse 44, we put this in, and man puts this in, that we sell everything. And we give everything and buy the field. But no, this is a picture of Jesus, verse 44, Matthew 13. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like treasure hidden in a field, which a man found and hid, and for the joy over it goes and sells all that he has and buys it. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever should believe in him shall not perish but have it. It's God who gave everything. He gave his only begotten Son. When the Lord, he doesn't want the earth, ball of dirt. What he wanted was the treasure, and here is the treasure, you and I, in earthen vessels. Man can't, we don't have anything that's can buy, and we're going to see in our next verse who's worthy to redeem, not willing. There's only one that would be worthy, and he had to be perfect, spotless, and hence we'll get into the lamb and the lion as we look at these things. And so here we are, Matthew 4, all these things I will give to you, and the Lord won't. So in Revelation 13, when we get there, the devil's going to try to give all this power and authority that he thinks that he has, and he's going to give it to the Antichrist. And so we'll read that. That's when this Antichrist will be literally demon-possessed as the devil will take up possession of him. But as we move on to where we're at today, because I want to get in the spiritual application. We'll develop these things over the weeks and months to come, but there's great spiritual application on these points, as great as the information is. Hebrews 2:7, you have made him a little lower than the angels. You have crowned him with glory and honor and set him over the works of your hands. You have put all things in subjection under his feet, for in that, this is all speaking of Christ, for in that he put all in subjection under him. He left nothing that is put under him, but now we do not yet see all things put under him. Verse 9, but we see Jesus, who was made a little lower than the angels, for the suffering of death, crowned with glory and honor, that he, by the grace of God, might taste death forever. Here's what we're seeing is, but now we not yet seen all things put under him. So do you see what we establish? And I know it's a great thread that we're weaving through here is God had the right, gave it to Adam. Adam bombed, gave it to the devil. The devil owned it until God came down in the flesh and redeemed it with his own purchased blood and bought this back, this treasure, the field to get the treasure that's in it. So what does all this mean? It's what you see in Atlanta right now. What you're seeing throughout the country, squatters. The ownership of those homes are clearly owned by the legal person who's on that deed. But squatters now come in and they break through the door, whatever. They take up the residence and they squat, but they're just squatters. They're usurping the law, but eventually the law is going to play itself out and those people will be moved out. And it's such a picture, it's a great picture of today that we see what's happening. The devil, he's just squatting at this point. God's going to come and do a final judgment upon him. Before the millennial kingdom that comes, he has to purify the earth, and that's what we're going to read in chapter 6 through 19. The devil will even be put into the bottomless pit, but at the end of the 1,000 years, be released one last time, and then will be the final judgment.
You have made the way for us to know you, a path that's straight and right.
You've been listening to a message from the book of Revelation on Light of the Word. Pastor Ray is covering many challenging topics and passages that are mentioned in Revelation, but following all the strange imagery and destructive events that occur in this book, there's a beautiful resolution to it all. There's a celebration, a wedding, a hope for a future without sin. Wouldn't that be such a relief? Revelation can be difficult to parse through. and understanding it all is impossible with our finite minds. But as the book plays out, and as God continues to reveal and show His will and way, you might be amazed at what He's doing and why. God is full of love for people and wants relationships with them. But if people willfully choose against Him, He's not going to force them into a relationship. He gives people free will. Our hope and prayer is that this book of the Bible is drawing you closer into relationship with God, and that you're able to appreciate His warnings, His grace, and His justice in conquering evil. To learn more about this ministry, go to lightoftheword.info. You'll also notice that Pastor Ray has written a devotional that is a companion resource to these teachings in the book of Revelation. It's free and available on our website. Thanks for listening to Light of the Word, illuminating the heart of God.